Hey guys, this is Nia, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a simple woodland pattern by using simple shapes. The first set I'm going to be showing you are trees. By that I mean pine trees and the normal looking tree with the bushy looking leaves on top. The first pine trees, I'm going to just use 3 triangles bunched up on top of each other, with the triangle getting larger as you go down the bottom of the tree, finished with a simple stroke for the stem. Another way of drawing pine trees is just by painting one larger triangle filled with one color, also finished with a line for the stem. And when the paint dries, I'm also going to add simple branches, which is just made out of one long line and small lines coming out from the side with white pen. These are very simple shapes that you could always repeat when the rest are a bit too difficult. Next are the stereotypical trees that I was talking about. Sorry guys, I really don't know how to explain it, but I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. With this one, I'm just going to use circles, one bigger than the other, using a different shade of green. And for the stem, I'm just going to use the same brown, but this time I'm going to paint one line with other tiny ones sticking out as the branches. You can also vary how you draw the branches to suit each tree that you paint. Here's the other normal looking tree. It's basically the same as the one I showed you before, but this time, instead of circles to form the bushy leaves, I'm going to paint tiny strokes with the tip of my brush to create the top area of the tree. This is also finished off with the same type of branches as the previous tree. A hint is to let the top dry before you draw the stem, or the paint could bleed through the green. And now, after I waited for the second pine tree to dry, I went back with a white pen to paint the branches inside of the triangle. The next shape I'm going to paint are mountains, because I want the woodland pattern to also have a mountainous feel. For the mountains, I just made a triangle and a small area on top for the ice cap. And for the purpose of dynamic composition, I painted another one behind it exactly the same way, but smaller, to give the impression that it's behind the first mountain. This is of course optional. You can also vary 1 or 2 mountains depending on how you want your pattern to be. Because I want to basically make it look like a camping ground, I'm going to add tents, which are basically triangular prisms, which is made out of a triangle and 2 lines going from one side depending on the angle your prism is at, and just close up the open shape diagonally. Here I picked the color yellow, but of course you can pick anything you want to fit your own color palette. For variety, you could also fill the colors in different areas of the prism. For the pattern later, I'm going to include all of this, but I find it to be a bit too much. But as usual, it's up to you. Experiment with your own composition and your colors however you please. Okay, now we're onto the set of animals. These are really fun and simple. I tried to simplify it as easy as possible using really basic shapes, so hopefully it's easier to understand and paint along with. Now I'm going to paint birds, which I made out of a shape that looks like half a circle. I think it's maybe more like a 1/3 maybe, but hopefully you get what I mean with the magic of videos these days. So obviously one side of the half circle will be the head and the other side will be the tail. With one side you can paint the beak by making just a tiny line with a yellow color, and the tail made out of 2 strokes of the same color as the circle. You'll see here that depending on the angle of the shape that you make, you can either make the bird look to the front, the back, the side, or standing up. The final animal we're going to paint is a stag. This is made out of an oval shape for the body, but it's actually maybe a bit more like a rounded rectangle. One side you can paint a small triangle pointing up to suggest the tail, and for the neck go ahead and paint one line heading to the direction you want depending where you want the stag to face. For the first one, I'm going to paint it just looking straight ahead from the side. Then I added a tiny oval for the head and thin strokes for the horn, and finished off with 4 lines for the legs. I'm going to show you varieties of the position your stag could have. As I mentioned before, this is done by differentiating the placing and the angle of the neck and head area. So for this one, you can see that instead of the line pointing up, the line is actually pointing down because I want the stag to face down as if it's eating grass. You can then finish off with the horns and the legs, and then you're done with the second position. For the last position I'm going to show you is basically the same as the first one, but I want the stag to look behind instead of straight ahead. So start off by making the same thing as the first position, but instead of making the position of the head in front of the neck, you want the head to look back. So paint the oval for the head facing the body. And that's it. Just add the horns and the legs, and then you're done with the third position. Last but not least, I'm going to paint grass, which is made out of 3 strokes. I'm using a light green color, and I think this just brings the whole pattern together because I'm going to spread it across everything that I've painted. I forgot to mention that after you do the grass, you can use a fine liner to paint really tiny details as the eyes and the legs for the birds. I also painted a little detail for the tent, and that's it. So that's it for the pattern. These are the basic shapes. Next, I'm just going to speed through the painting process that I did for the whole pattern itself. Here I'm spreading the shapes randomly on the left. This is quite chaotic, but I'm also going to show you a more systematic way of painting this pattern on the right hand side of the page, where I pick one shape at a time and spreading it across evenly. This way you get a more even coverage for each of the shape. I'm also very sorry about my camera. I don't know why it's doing this. It just came out when I was editing it, and I don't really know how to fix it, so hopefully you guys just bear with me for a bit. As you can see on the right page, I distributed just one shape at a time. By doing this, you can also see the progress better, and if you're already happy with maybe just the trees as the pattern, you could stop there, whereas if you've already painted all the shapes at once in one page, there's no going back. I actually kind of like it just with the trees without everything else, but as I said, it's all up to you. Give it a go and experiment with it. So we're almost done, and that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something new. If you give it a go, please let me know how you went, and I'll see you guys at the next video. Bye!